Hello, patrons, and welcome to your reading. Thank you for trusting me to read your cards again. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon as always. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone that subscribes to my Patreon. It is one of my favorite things to do right now, and it's something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy putting out Patreon readings, and I really enjoyed the little community of you that I have watching my readings, sending me feedback or putting up feedback in the comments, or when you message me privately to send me your feedback and let me know how the readings resonated. I always love those kind of interactions on that kind of like one-to-one, more personal level, where I'm able to gather that kind of information. I just really love it. So let's get into your reading. This is going to be the reading on what options do you have in your career right now or currently. This was the most popular option in the poll that I put up. I mean, it was very close with the whose energy is intervening with your energy, so I'll be probably doing that reading this month as well. I'm going to try and get that reading done this month as well. But I'm going to start with the career one because it was more popular. So what options do you have in your career right now? Let's get into it. We've got 4 groups: Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, and Group 4. You can pause the video as always. You probably know the gist. Pause the video if you want to use over the options for a little bit longer. See if you are attracted to one option, 2 options, 3 options, all of them, or maybe you're not attracted to any of them. If you're not attracted to any of them, I would recommend leaving this reading and either coming back to it at a later time or just leaving it, because there may not be messages here for you at all. So with that, let's get started. We're going to get started with the first group, and that is the citrine group. And I'm going to be putting these stones away, and we're going to be live shuffling on camera. Let's get into it. What options do you have in your career right now? Group number 1. So I'm using the Rider-Waite deck for this, and I want to pull maybe like 2 or 3 cards to see the options available. I think I want to pull 3. Just for some reason, I'm getting 3 options. Maybe there's more options. I'm sure the cards will be letting us know if there's more than 3 options. But I feel like I want to look at the 3 main options that you have in your career right now. So let's get started with your first option. What is the first option for group number 1? Okay, the first option is the 5 of Swords in reverse. So the first option looks like an option where you, when it comes to your career, you have the option to, the main option, as it seems for you, group 1, in your career, is to try and put your ego aside and not need to be the best at your job constantly. There's something like that that's coming through, and maybe that's a bit of shadow work that needs to be done. But your one very feasible, very realistic option in your career, and maybe in some sort of way an option that would make your life a lot easier, is stepping out of the energy of needing to be the best or needing to be the one that has achieved the most in your career, in your job, in your office, in your place of work. It's actually a really good option. It's a very self-forgiving option. And it would allow you to stay wherever you are at in your career and enjoy the beauty of where you're at in your career, and enjoy the beauty of your level of expertise. Maybe it's not the most expert level, but it's definitely not the least either. But allowing yourself to not always be the best at your job out of all the people that might be doing your job or doing something similar to you could do wonders for your career. And that is something that, and I do always intend for these readings to be very honest. So I do feel like that is a very honest message that your guides have for you. You by stepping out of the energy of like, I need to be the best, I need to be the most expert, I need to do the best in this career, by stepping out and being like, actually, I don't need to be the best at everything that I do. I would like to be the best at some things. I'd like to be quite good, and I'd like to make sure that I'm always pushing myself, but I don't physically, emotionally, mentally need to be the best. I give myself permission to not be the best at this career, to be the best at this job. I give myself permission to be a non-expert at something in this job or in this career. And that is a very viable option that your guides are giving me here right now. And it's something that could ease your load by a lot. So I want to pull an astrology card for you as well. So let's pull an astrology card for this option to get more of a clarification. Yeah, trine. It could create a lot of ease. Angelic support, harmony, and perfect flow. It could create a flow, and it's almost like by allowing yourself and permitting yourself to not be the best at your job or at your career or the type of job that you do, you create like a gate that opens up, or you unblock something that allows a lot of flow in, and inadvertently, in a very paradoxical way, you create an energy where you become amazing at what you do. Where you become incredible at what you do. Because you allow yourself to not be the best. Because you put your ego aside and you allow yourself to be a fuck up at your job sometimes. You allow yourself to be not so great at your job sometimes. You allow yourself to not be the master of your job. So that's your first option in your career right now. Let's pull a second option in your career. What else could you do in your career right now? We've got the World card in reverse. A lot of this permission to just let yourself not be an expert. For some reason that's coming through, but this is from a slightly different angle, because this energy is very much like, I need to be the best. I need to be the best of what I do. I need to be like the master of my craft, the master of my job, the master of my career, from a point of view that is, I'm the best. And maybe it's like you're proving something to yourself. But this energy is more about not needing to be the most rounded or well-rounded or the most educated even in your job or in your career. Surrendering the need to get to the very end of the career. There's a bit of, and I can see you're very ambitious people, group one. That is something that's coming off this reading straight away. But the second option, if you still wanted to be the best at everything, let's say you wanted to be the best at your career and you're like, this option doesn't suit me. That's not what I want to do right now. Maybe in the future, but right now I feel like I need to be the best at my career or my job or whatever it is that I do. Well, then your guides are giving you the option of, okay, this is your kind of like primary option, but look at your secondary option. If you still want to be the best at your career and always be on top, what you can do then instead is not rush so much to be on top and to take more meticulous time to get to the top and slow down and not to try to get to the very finish line of your career or your job. It's like, allow yourself not to rush to the finish line. Allow yourself to enjoy the incompletion of certain cycles, of certain projects. I even feel like a lot of you could benefit from not completing certain projects and allowing yourself, permitting yourself to abandon certain projects, certain jobs, and not putting so much shame and pressure on yourself over it. You can still be the best or strive to be the best at your career if that's something that or you can do both. You can decide, I'm going to give myself permission not to be the best at my job or my career, and I will also give myself permission to leave projects incomplete, to leave certain things open-ended in my career where I don't have a definitive full stop. Because the chances are, things that you leave incomplete, there's an opening there for you to come back to them. Just because you're leaving something incomplete for a period of time doesn't mean that you're abandoning it forever. And maybe giving yourself that permission around those things, like, just because I'm abandoning this project right now, let's say, if that is something that you're able to do, I feel like, especially if you're a creative person, If I'm abandoning this project right now, fine. But I am giving myself permission to abandon it for the time being, with the thought that someday I will find a way to come back to this project, or to incorporate this open-ended project into another project. Or I give myself permission to leave this career for now that I'm pursuing. I don't feel like I'm quite done with this career path, but right now I know that I need to abandon it and go into a different place, career-wise. And someday I know somehow I will find a way to incorporate this career into what I do again, but right now I can't quite figure it out and I need to go explore my other options. That's your other option, leaving things open-ended. You're quite a definitive kind of person. There's a lot of cardinal fixed energy as well, I guess. Saturnian energy. Saturn, well, that's funny because Saturn rules Capricorn, which is a cardinal energy, and Aquarius, which is a fixed energy. You're very ambitious. Cardinal energy mixed with fixed energy is very ambitious. It's relentless. Don't be afraid to leave things open-ended. You are actually meant to leave things open-ended in your career. Quite a lot, group number 1. You're destined to have projects that are left abandoned. But it's not like you're leaving these projects abandoned with no regard for them, with no appreciation for them. They still have taught you something. And something about this open-ended project or career that you didn't complete or didn't stick to, at some point will come back to you like a boomerang to help you in your progression in another career or another job. You are destined to leave things incomplete. That is the very beauty of you. You're meant to leave things out in the open. Maybe your purpose is even to start projects, leave them incomplete, and allow somebody else to take those projects on. It's like, hey, look, I have this project. I started it, but I'm no longer fascinated or interested in it. Do you want to take over? Do you want to pick up this project and work on it for me? Or you can invite people to complete the projects that you started. And that is also something that is very beautiful, and that is a real option for you. And I wonder if this is something that you can journal about. How could I start projects that I can allow other people to finish? I suppose that's a really good philosophy for a lot of us. Maybe we need more of that in the world, where we don't hold on to our projects as our own for dear life, but we see a project or a beginning of a project as potential to either become our own project that we make on our own, or maybe it's a project that we start but we don't finish and somebody else finishes it for us. And then it's a collaborative sort of thing. I really like this option. Something about this option, group 1, is really beautiful. Let's move into your third option and see what other option do you have in your career? What other options do you have? What other things can you take on in your career? Queen of Cups. We've also got the Hermit card in reverse here on the back of the deck. For some reason I want to put that here, because Queen of Cups energy is quite introverted, and there's introverted energy here with the Hermit. The third option is to see that your career is just you. That's what it feels like. You are your career. You are your project. Career for you is not a life path that you take. It's a whole project that you create through your very being. And I don't feel like this third option is even an option. It's more a summary of the two other options that we were presented with to begin with. Your career is not a path like I'm becoming a doctor or I'm becoming something like, even you're not even the kind of person who's like, I'm becoming an artist. Let's say you are more of a creative kind of person. You keep trying to box yourself into something. But your career, group one, is not, it's a series of careers that merge into a person, that merge into a creature, that merge into an energy. Your career is not a straightforward line. Your career is something that could... You're not meant to even have a career in a way. You're just meant to be you. You're not meant to have a career. That's the beauty of you as a person. You're kind of meant to be this hanged man. In a way, you are massively ambitious. And I feel like you maybe were very, very ambitious in a past life with your career, group one. And I feel like your mission in this lifetime is actually to realize that you don't always have to be ambitious. And ambition is maybe not for you in this lifetime. It's like you're meant to come into this lifetime as a massively ambitious person and leave this lifetime with very few ambitions or very neutral ambitions. It's like you're meant to leave this lifetime with a view of career from a point of view. Career is only an element of life. It is not life itself. Like, you are meant to completely erase the notion of what do you do for a living. I exist for a living. I exist in my incomplete beauty, in my incomplete uniqueness, in all my incomplete projects, every living, breathing thing that I've created, and even if it's not living and breathing, it's still living and breathing. I exist through me, and my career exists through me, but I wouldn't call it a career. It's just me. You are more so a collection of projects than a career person. Early learning, childhood relations, the rational mind, and communication. I feel like a lot of you are meant to speak on this as well. The idea, you are kind of like something that's very, I really enjoy the energy here, that I really like the vibe that we've created here today. But you are meant to be someone who actually speaks on how we don't need careers. There's something about you, like on a radical kind of, not that we don't need careers. Obviously, some people need careers, and that is just something, some people, will not know how to function in life if they don't have a career, because that is their very purpose. And a lot of people zone in on a career as a purpose, but you're not meant to do that. And you're meant to find people like you who are maybe struggling to have a career, who are maybe struggling to find this one thing that I stick to, and it's like, and show them that they can just be a collection of projects, a collection of jobs, a collection of contributions to society and to community. They don't have to have a massive career where they're seen as the master or they're seen as the ultimate sage or the ultimate... It's okay to be the jack of all trades. You don't have to be the master. You don't have to be the master of any. And I'm not saying that you won't master any through your life. I think you will. But you are not letting yourself juggle. It's like you are meant to juggle. And then sometimes when there's too many balls to juggle, you're meant to throw one of the balls away. And so you're like, oh, I'm juggling the amount that I'm... And then when you start juggling, it's like if you were to learn how to juggle, juggling even 2 balls or 3 balls would be really fucking hard, right? But the more you do it, it's like you think you can't do it, but the more you do it, the more you practice. Something about juggling as a motion... I don't know if this is a very random message, but for some of you, you need to take up juggling. It's like actual physical juggling can help you understand the way that your brain works. This is going to be... Look, I get completely random specific messages for these groups. And I'm very aware I have, at any given time, I have between 30 and 40 patrons. And some of the messages that come through are very specific, but I feel like if you're watching this reading, there is someone here and it'll resonate with whoever's watching this reading. Some of you are going to be like, no, not for me. I'm not going to take that message. Don't take it. But someone here who's watching this reading right now, you need to take up juggling. Like, just do it for fun. Someone here needs to take up juggling. There's a lot of fear associated with juggling things, but it's so funny because it's like your guides are very much like, why are you so scared of juggling when you are meant to be the expert juggler? You're like the expert juggler of jobs, projects, and you're meant to be someone who knows how to discard a project when it's time to let it go, and when to just step away from shit when it's time to let it go. Like when it's time to just sit back and be this hanged man. You're the kind of person who's meant to do fuck all at certain times in your life, and you're meant to have a lot of rest and space. I feel like a lot of the artistic minds are gonna pick this group. You're meant to contemplate and observe and spend a lot of time in your emotion. You are meant to spend a lot of time journaling and writing about life. A lot of you actually can figure out your career through writing about what you like to do. And I mean, this is probably not anything anyone ever wants to hear, but you are someone who's meant to take out the factor of money and finances out of it, because and it might sound counter intuitive. It may feel like, no, that's definitely not the case, but money will come. If you're doing the projects that fulfill you, if you are allowing yourself to juggle naturally, money will come. People will be fascinated by your juggling abilities, and people will just pay you because they're like, I don't even know what this juggling means, but I just want to watch this person juggle because it's so fun. You're not meant to be the best. You're meant to be the best at this structure of working and being, but you're not meant to be the best at a job or a career. You're meant to master the structure rather than a career. Group 1. There is a bit of a chaotic energy to you, but it's fine. It's good. You came into this life indecisive, but it's because maybe you were very decisive in past lives. In past lives, you could have picked things that you were like, I'm doing this for this lifetime and that's it. And you maybe are craving variety, group number 1, because your soul in this lifetime decided, you know what? I've always been focused on just one thing. In this lifetime, let me just focus on like 7 things at a time. And it's counterintuitive to you because in your past lives, you're so used to doing things that are zoned in, and you keep trying to do things in a very masterful, zoned in way. But you've done that already. You've had that experience. Trust me. Sources? Trust me, fam. Do you have any sources? No, just trust me. Just trust me. A random girl on Patreon telling you, like, just trust me, fam. No, but like, genuinely, that's what it feels like. It feels like, I honestly, and in a way, I really resonate with this group. So, I really resonate with this group, and I don't want to insert myself too much into the reading, but I feel like my intuition is very strong with this group, and I do find that in certain readings, if I'm really resonating with the group, my messages will come through very strong, because it's almost like I'm receiving the message as well. But you are meant to master a new way of working, a new way of creating, a new way of contributing to society, a structure we don't even know exists yet. And I wonder if whoever picked this group, like, I would almost be like, connecting with similar people like that could be very helpful. So if you, like, I don't want to, like, meet each other in the comments, but I wonder if there could be some merit to that. It's like, maybe you need to, because third house is community and peers. And to me, it's like there's peers around you that are meant to do a very similar thing. And a great thing to do is to meet these people and connect with these types of people for you and create a little community. And third house is not a big, massive community. Third house talks about small communities. They're not huge, they're not big, but there's something to them that drives the people in them. that's what I have for your career messages and options. A little bit convoluted, a little bit chaotic. I expected a little bit more, but that's the thing. You're not very refined. You're not meant to be very refined. There's meant to be chaos. There's meant to be beauty to your chaos, and there's method to your madness. But you need to figure out your method. It's like the madness is there and it's beautiful and it's so exciting, and you need to allow that madness to work in a very deliberate kind of intentional way. It is your North Node energy. You're destined to have projects that are incomplete. You are destined to have jobs that are incomplete. You are destined to take on things and quit them. It's your destiny to quit. You are a professional quitter. And you quit because you know when to quit. And that is a beauty. There's something very beautiful about knowing when to quit. That's what I have for you. Group number 1. Okay, let me know what you thought. Interesting reading. I feel like I got really passionate on that one. So thank you very much. I actually really enjoyed that reading and it invigorated me and I'm excited. And thank you so much for hanging out with me. Let's move on. Moving on to the Red Carnelian group. Let's see, group 2. Your options. Again, as always with these readings, something I expect one thing and then the cards are just like, we're going to talk very differently to you than what you expected here. So with group 2, the way that I was doing group 1, and I'll be doing the same with you, I decided to look at 3 options. So option 1, option 2, option 3. Now there might be more options in your career right now than just 3 options. And I'm kind of setting the intention with the cards that they would show me that if they want to talk about that. But again, group 1 kind of went in an unexpected way. And so I'm sure I can never predict these things. So let's just get into it. So the primary option that you have in your career right now, what is the primary option that you have in your career right now? Okay, we've got, it's funny. Okay, interesting. Queen of Cups and forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for the mistakes that you made in your career. Compassion. You need to be more compassionate with yourself in your career right now. That is the main option, and it's a really important one. There's a need to turn your back on the ways in which you failed in your career. The ways in which you... There's another thing that I'm getting. You may be the kind of group or the kind of person where whatever work environment you ever worked in, you always felt like you didn't belong, or like people wanted to just like get rid of you, or there's a need to have compassion for yourself because there's almost this shame associated with working with people, and there's a want to shut yourself off, and it's like, I want to work alone, I want to work alone, I want to work alone. And that's absolutely fine, and you're allowed to work alone, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't work alone, but there's a need to know that in many, many ways, more than you know, your inability to gel with some people in a workplace was not your fault. It was not your fault. It wasn't even those people's fault. It was the culture and the general energy that came from the top that made you become such an outcast, or like in your feelings made you become such an outcast in these jobs. You may find that socially jobs are a little bit hard for you, or work, career is a little bit hard for you. You may feel like you don't belong in spaces, certain spaces in work. Yeah, look, house 11, friends, like-minded groups, and humanitarian beliefs. 11th house is the house of big communities, big spaces where there's a lot of people. Also, 11th house always makes me think of popularity. There's something about this option that is deeply emotional, and it's more like shadow work almost, rather than, I'm gonna take these actions in order to take step A, B, C to this career path or whatever. It feels a lot more like you need to understand that you have the potential to gel with so many communities. You have the potential to be very popular in some sort of way. And it's like, obviously popularity it shouldn't be the goal. Like being popular, we all crave some sort of level of popularity, right? Or like likability or something like that. And I feel like you don't believe that you have it. You don't have that it factor to for people to go, oh my god, group 2, I love group 2. They're great. They're amazing to work with. They're amazing to collaborate with. But you do. But the thing that's stopping you from accepting that, because you're meant to work with people. And this is something that I feel you are going to resist so hard, group 2. You may say, no, like, I'm meant to work alone. I like to work alone. It's easier. There's no drama. I'm relaxed. You're meant to work with people. And it's what your soul craves, and it's what your energy craves. Like, you want to be around people in your professional environment. You want, but you want to be with like-minded people, people or a community where if shit goes down, that it's not that a person gets pushed out of the community, but that the community turns around and finds a way to accept and integrate the person. You are actually very interested in integration. I feel like you could almost create a new version of HR or something like that. Like there's a more elevated HR energy to you. It's, you know, like the bullshit HR human resources that we have in jobs. I worked a lot of office jobs back in my day. But I worked a lot of office jobs, and HR is always just like, yeah, sign this form. Oh, you have a complaint. Oh, cool. We won't do anything about it. We just keep it on file that we tried. And it's like, of course, people get defeated and people get pissed off. And I feel like you're one of those people. You're like, well, that was bullshit. Like, the people that were meant to support me and help me and integrate me, well, they failed. And you see the flaws in those systems. It's like you are like a more elevated kind of human resources kind of person. But it's like, I wouldn't even call it a human resources, because that's like very corporate, right? So it's like, it's a less corporate version of human resources. So any job that you do, or maybe you're meant to be someone who comes into workplaces or jobs and helps coworkers find a similar language and helps coworkers find a way to treat each other with respect. Helps coworkers find similarities between each other rather than the differences between each other. That your first option is to admit to yourself that you actually deeply want to work with communities and people. That is your first option in your career. Admitting that to yourself and working through the uncomfortable emotions around it that do arise. You know, it's like if you say to yourself, I actually deep down want to be working with people. I want to work with communities. What emotions arise when you do that? Okay, let's look at option 2 for you. Another option for you, if you were not ready to step into the energy of working with communities, if you said to yourself, you know what, I'm not ready for community kind of work. I'm not ready to work with people. I need more time for me. I need more time to relax, step back. Your guides are saying that's absolutely fine. A good option for you are very practical jobs. Jobs where there's not a lot of like writing, reading, and it's not because you can't do those things, right? It's not because you can't do those things. Very hands-on approach. Very like, I'm working with my body. My body's doing the job. And it's not because you can't do those things. You definitely can. It's because maybe your mind needs some rest. And being in a job where you are doing things that are more manual can help you give your mental state some rest. Give your mind some time off where you don't have to think about things so hard, where you don't have to read and understand between the lines. There needs to be a simplicity around what you do if you're not ready to accept this option. There needs to be a level of simplicity and stability and firmness, something that is just relaxed, something that you know that you can come in, do the work, and then leave home. It may not be the most well-paying job, and it's only for the time being. It may not be the job that is, you view as your like life's passion or career, but it will be the job that will allow you to neutralize yourself in some sort of way. And again, it's short term. It's not long term. It's not forever, because eventually I feel like when you're ready and when you can neutralize yourself and you can stabilize yourself, you will be ready to go for this career of working with communities and making communities see their similarities rather than their differences. You are a real humanitarian group too. I feel like you're meant to be in some sort of humanitarian work, because you understand where humanity goes wrong when it comes to treating outsiders or treating people that don't fit in. You are a humanitarian. You're probably someone who could do amazing work with minorities. I keep hearing you were born for it. Like, it's a mission in some sort of way. Like, you're not into a career, you're into a mission, and your mission is around people. Opposition, imbalance, a point of tension, and a power struggle. There needs to be, if you're not ready for working in a humanitarian kind of thing, you need to be in a job where there's not a lot of tension, where there's small stakes, no big stakes. I suppose when you're in a job where you are working with people, and I suppose any humanitarian job, it's human lives, it's big stakes, you know, human lives, huge stakes, you know, working in a humanitarian type of job, career, maybe working for a charity, setting up a charity, huge stakes, right? It's a big responsibility to do that. And I feel like it's something that you will eventually be ready to take on that responsibility. I feel you will be ready to eventually go into, like, I feel like you could be an amazing public speaker that focuses on humanitarian work. But it's like, before you do that, you may need to have a job that is just like, I turn off my brain, there's no high stakes, there's no big points of tension, and I need a couple of years of just this type of job before I go into this full force. That's the way that it feels to me. Some of you will be like, actually, no, I'd rather not even do this option. Let me just go straight into this one. But I feel like a lot of you who are watching this reading, it's like, I need this one. I need this. I know I crave it right now. And maybe you feel guilty because you want to be this humanitarian, because you want to change humanity, because you want to help humanity. That is your big objective, your soul's objective in this life. But fuck, you need this laid back, low stakes, no tension kind of job. Small steps, lay low, not too many eyes on me kind of job for now. It's not forever. It's temporary. Knight of Pentacles is temporary energy to me. It's stable energy. Knight of Pentacles is stable, it's stationary, and once you decide on it, you decide on it. But you also tell yourself, I'm deciding on it for now, but it's not going to be forever. I will not get stuck in a job like this. Maybe this is what you're afraid of. Maybe you've been considering, like, maybe I should just get a job where it's low stakes, it's a little bit more manual, where I don't have to think about it constantly, I don't need to worry about it constantly. But you're like, fuck, what if I get stuck in it? What if I become complacent in it? I know my soul kind of wants it right now for a bit of stability and safety, but what if I know I don't want to do it forever. But your guides are saying you won't. You have a stubbornness in you that won't allow you to do it forever, because you know your true calling. You are a humanitarian. Okay, and third option. Let's see what the cards say to us about your third option and what other way you can go in your career. The Magician in reverse. You could be such a beautiful speaker. I'm telling you, you're like there's a humanitarian side to you, but also like a speaker. Like, you could really inspire people and communities through your speech, through your expression. Page of Wands. There's too much chaos, right? You're not ready to go into the full... It feels like you're not fully ready yet, but you will be. you will come to a place where you will have to make the decision to move into this more humanitarian kind of energy in your career and put big stakes into your career. You are kind of, you feel like, to me, you feel like a person who takes a long time to psych themselves up, but once they psych themselves up, like, they go full force and full speed. And so what if it takes you another 10 years to psych yourself up? So what if it takes you 2 or 3 years to psych yourself up? If you know that this is what you need, and I feel like this group, you know, deep down, you know what you're meant to be doing. Deep down, you know your whole purpose. It's not even about career. It's like a calling, a vocation, a purpose is to be a humanitarian. In some sense of the word, in some sense of the word, your purpose feels like a humanitarian, someone who brings people together, a glue of some kind, to humanity, but you're not quite sure how to do that yet. You know that it's in you. You know that the beginning stages of it are in you, but you're like, I feel too tired and too chaotic and too defeated to do that right now. Because if I started speaking out and I started becoming a speaker and someone was knocking me down, like, I would probably fall even lower than where I'm feeling I am right now. But your guys are like, you don't have to. You can take your time until you are in this King of Swords energy, until you are in this stable energy, and you're like, you know what? I'm ready to speak up. I'm ready to have very firm, solid beliefs where I speak loudly and proudly on humanity and what humanity can achieve. Where I'm not scared anymore. I'm not anticipating people to bring me down. Like, I'm just getting like a speaker who really knows what they're talking about when it comes to maybe you're meant to study humanity sociology. Some of you may need to study. Like, some of you might need to go and literally do a course in like sociology or, yeah, that feels right. It would be an investment for some of you in terms of money. It would cost money and you're aware of that. And maybe that is something that poses fear and stops you from going for it. But you're capable. You're capable. You are very capable. You're capable of being this humanitarian glue to society. We've got Earth. Persistence, patience, and practicality. Your road to your career is very practical. You're meant to always kind of, it's like no matter how much you want to achieve and how, like, you might have these like intentions in your heart of hearts of like, I want to bring humanity together. I want to be this humanitarian nature or energy that binds people together. And I want to show people how they can bind with each other. But fuck, I don't really know how to do that. I feel like I have good ideas, but I just don't really know how to practically apply them yet. And your guides are saying, take your time and apply them slowly. Persist on that intention. Be patient with that intention, but hold that intention. Honor that intention that you have within you. Your career is for the people. Your career is for society. Your career is for humanity. Because you are humanity. You feel the burden of humanity on your shoulders to such a degree where you get it. You just get it. You get all of it. You get the big picture of where humanity went wrong or where, you know, there's certain challenges that we need to face, but you don't know how to communicate it yet. But you can teach yourself how to communicate it. You can teach yourself how to express it. And then when you turn this magician upside down back into the upright position, that's when the magic is going to flow and magic is going to happen. A lot of you are speakers. Like, a lot of you are meant to be speakers. Like, what else can I say? This group is, you have a calling to do with society and people. And again, it's like a more elevated version of human resources, where it could go where you are like a person that comes in to sort out things in within workplaces. You're like a mediator in a way as well, group number 2. You're able to find beauty in both sides of the story. Maybe you have a lot of Libra placements in your chart, even though there's not any indication of Libra here, but there's a balancing kind of energy. It's like you're able to assess both sides of the story. You would be a good mediator, a good like there's a diplomatic energy to you, a diplomat type of quality to you. But it's like you haven't fully discovered it yet. It's like a diamond in the rough for now. So that's what I have for you, group number 2 for your career. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Very interesting answers again. I feel like tarot always blows my mind. And that's why I love it so much. It's just a beautiful tool to exist. So let's move on. Let's move forward. I'm going to move on to group number 3. Let's get into your reading, group number 3. What are the options in your career? Now, some unexpected answers came out in the first 2 groups, so I feel like I would be expecting, again, don't know what to expect with you, group 3, but let's get into it. So, group 3, what is the primary option in their career right now for group 3? Okay, we've got 10 of Swords in reverse. Do I want to take this one? Yes. Okay, Judgment card in reverse. Your primary option in your career right now is to force some sort of an ending. Not even force it, because this ending feels like a long time coming. An element of your job or an element of your career needs to end. And it's something that I feel like you're aware of. Internally, maybe subconsciously, but for a lot of you, I feel like it's not just subconscious. I feel like you consciously understand that as well. And I feel like you're judging yourself for not ending it. The feeling that I'm getting from this is like, fuck's sake, I know I need to end this element or this part of my job or my career. Why the fuck am I not doing it? What's wrong with me? Like, there's a frustration with yourself for some reason around it. And your guides are saying it's okay. You don't have to judge yourself for not making the move and not making the decision to end it. But if you're not making that decision, you need to look at why you're not making that decision. If you're not ending a certain part of your career, you need to really, really, truly look into why you're not doing that. Is it because you have a lack mentality? Is it because of security issues that you have? Is it because you will not feel safe if you end this part of your career or part of your journey? There's a real need to look at that, and that is the first and primary option that your guides are showing me here within your career. A need to end something once and for all, definitively. To walk away from a job, to walk away from a certain career path, to walk away from a certain element that exists in your career and say, I'm not fucking doing that ever again. There's that kind of need for, and elevate yourself. And rather than judge yourself for not doing it, dissecting and understanding why you're not doing it. And with that, with your understanding of why you're not doing it, you will feel an ease and an unraveling to do it. Maybe not immediately. It might take a few months, but you will. So I'm also pulling astrology cards to clarify these options. Can I get an astrology card? Yeah. Pluto. Uncomfortable endings and changes. Transformations. Sorry, I don't know why I said it like that. There's a need to, just a death of something there's a need to kill something. And it's so violent and so, but it's like, it may feel like it would be a violent thing to do. Like, some of you could be in a career or a job where you've been there for a long time, or maybe you invested a lot into it and you're like, what? Like, I know I need to just, murder that part of my job, murder that part of my career. It's like, it's necessary. I need to just get rid of it. I need to allow it to die. Sure, it's dying already. The feeling that I'm getting from this, right? And it's just like so graphic and so, okay, I'm gonna say trigger warning because it's like, if like a creature, I'm not gonna say like a creature was dying and you came across something that was dying and you knew that it was gonna die, there was no need that this thing or animal, creature, person was gonna survive. It's like if you stared at it and you knew that it was in pain and it needed to die, you would be doing it a favor, taking, it's kind of like, you know, taking it out of its misery. And there's a part of your career that feels that kind of way. It's like, this part of my career is eventually going to die anyway. This part of my job is gonna, or this job, I know it's gonna die anyway at some point. I'm just prolonging its misery. And it's like, there's a need for death within the situation to take you and this energy out of its misery and bring it to heaven. You know, with the judgment, let it go. Release it from the physical. That is your primary option. You know that it's not going to last. You know that whatever this thing is in your career, you will not keep going with it. You know that whether it be today, tomorrow, the next year, or in 5 years, you will be done with this. You already know you don't want it. And yet you're there. Why am I there? That's what's important. I'm not going to judge myself for being here still. Again, just like if something was dying, you may not want to say goodbye to it yet. You're not ready. You're emotionally attached. You're invested. You're not ready. It might be ready. You're not ready. It's ready to move on, but you're like, well, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for you to die. But you can't force it to live, if that makes sense. I feel like that's very dramatic and very, very intense, and I apologize, but it's the way that I am seeing it and feeling it in my body. Let it die. That's what I'm hearing with this part of your career, with this part of your job. You must be a very intense group. You're the intense group. You're the I wouldn't say baddies, but like, you're the intense, enigmatic. Everything you do is intense and it's beautiful. Your intensity is so beautiful. Like, you live life in such an intense way, and so your career must also be intense and full of this intense energy that makes you constantly question yourself. There's an investigative energy to you're like the investigator in your career. I'm kind of getting like Scorpio North Node. I'm getting Scorpio MC. I'm getting Pluto in your 10th house, in your midheaven again. Like, it's like, I'm investigating. I'm figuring shit out. When it comes to my purpose, when it comes to my career, when it comes to where I stand in the world, I want to really get my hands dirty. I want to like dig around and figure shit out. What's the point of doing any sort of a career if it's not interesting and mundane and routine? And to some people, there's merit in the routine. To some people, there's merit to having a career that is more low-key, and there's not a need to constantly be investigative, and there's not a need to constantly transform and constantly allow death to occur, or a version of death to occur. For you, it's important. To you, it's important. Or else it's not interesting. Or else you don't even want to know it. Maybe there's a need to admit to yourself that deep down, the kind of career that you want is a career that will constantly feel like there will always be a sense of, I haven't figured it out and I'll never figure it out. But that's what's so fascinating about it. I feel like a lot of you are actually like shadow workers. For some of you, if like spiritual careers resonate, I would say like working in spiritual careers where you, not necessarily as messengers, like, you know, tarot messengers, but maybe working with tarot to do shadow work, or working with divination tools to do, like deep internal investigation. I also feel like this is a strong psychology type of energy with this group. Okay, let's look at option 2 for you. What's the secondary option, or the second option that group 3 should consider? We've got the 2 of Pentacles. Another thing that I'm getting for this group is that don't be afraid to start something before you finish something else. Because there is a feeling of like, sometimes maybe you are not ready for something to die in your career, to die, or for something to end in your job. And you're like, no, well, I have to stick to it. I'm not allowed to start a new thing before this dies off. Your guides are saying you're allowed to maybe start a side hustle if your main job is not fascinating you anymore. You are allowed to go and maybe do a part-time job that is different. You can start other things before you're ready to let go. You're kind of the person who your energy group 3 feels like it's like you're really into something for a very long time, but if it ever kind of starts becoming boring, you kind of panic and you're like, oh my god, I used to find this so interesting. Why am I all of a sudden finding it boring? It's because you probably unraveled everything about it that you were meant to unravel. And so what you can do in that instance is to leave it behind and just say, right, I figured this job out. For me, it's like I understand it. I understand it in the back of my mind. I can either just leave it and move on to the next thing, or if I'm not ready to leave it and I still feel a sense of like, oh, I need security, you need to step into the energy of, well, let me start something on the side while I'm waiting to be ready to leave this other thing. That's the way that it feels to me with you, group number 3. You need support systems that you put in place to jump from one to another. You're not the kind of person who will come to the edge of the cliff and will see the other cliff on the other side and go, do you know what? I'll just jump to that. I can definitely jump to it. And maybe like there's not much of a space, and you're standing on one cliff and you're like, I know that I could jump. I know that I can jump and I know I'm ready to jump. But just in case, let me build a bridge. Just in case. You are a careful kind of person in a way where you are like, let me just build a bridge just in case. And just in case I want to come back to the thing, what if I will think of that the other thing that I was doing was interesting again? Let me build a bridge so that I can come back to that other thing if I choose to do so. Just in case, build a bridge in your career situations. When you're ready to leave a situation, a lot of you can jump. I think a lot of you can jump from one thing to another, but in a lot of cases, you will need that bridge for security. You are someone who values security. Again, it makes me think of the Scorpio-Taurus axis, because Scorpio loves to investigate and loves to get really deep and dirty with things and really, really, just get very intimate with the information and get very intimate with the details of whatever it is that they're doing. Whereas Taurus, while also quite an investigator, and I don't think they get enough credit for how investigative they are, like to do it under the guise of security or under the roof of security. There's a need for them to have their comforts and their sensory, their senses to be comfortable. There's a need for them to have certain luxuries or certain comforts to soften the transition. Where Scorpio's like, I want to transition, it's like a I wouldn't say violent, but like a pungent type of transition. Whereas Taurus is kind of like, I like transitioning, but I need to have all my comforts. And it's almost like you need to keep, maybe you have like Taurus IC, Scorpio MC, or maybe like South Node and Taurus, North Node in Scorpio, and it's like you always need to consider that South Node, or you always need to consider that 4th house when you're moving to the 10th house, or when you're moving to the North Node, with the South Node to the North Node. Like, North Node is what you're destined to have, South Node is what you're destined to release or detach from, but at the same time, South Node still needs to be honored. It's not like we should just forget it and say, fuck the South Node. And I think in astrology, I've had this conversation actually with a fellow astrologer. Her name is Lisa. She's her channel on YouTube is Arcane and Stellar, and she's also a tarot reader, but she's an amazing astrologer. And South Node really gets a lot of disrespect in astrology, in modern astrology. South Node is not like, oh, I need to get over that side of me, I need to leave it behind. South Node only brings things that are old and tired. South Node reminds you of where you come from. And so I feel like a lot of you for this group, especially, maybe check your South Node and your North Node and move towards your North Node, but always remember where you came from with your South Node. Always remember. Like I'm hearing that from when Mufasa says that to Simba in The Lion King. It's like, remember who you are. Remember. You're a deep group 3. Okay, we've got Earth. Persistence, patience, and practicality. There needs to be a practical safety blanket sometimes for you when you are moving from one job to another. And that's just the way that it needs to be for you. And that's okay. So what if you're not the kind of person that can just take a little mindless, impulsive risk? So what if that's not you? Who cares? It's not a big deal. Create that safety blanket for you. The point is that you did cross the bridge. The point is that you got to the other side, not how you did it. Some of you might have a little bit of shame around needing so many security systems in place in order to move forward. You don't need to be shamed around it. You don't need to feel shame around it at all. Okay, let's look at option 3 for your career group 3. Got the high priest. I'm telling you, there's a lot of very spiritual, like, a lot of you are meant to be like into divination, and even if you're not literally pursuing a career with divination or shadow work or like, you know, occult spiritual matters, even if you're not pursuing a career with it, you're meant to kind of use them as tools for your own self-development and your own understanding of career. But not only career, just like life in general. You are very spiritual, group number 3. A lot of you should try and practice your psychic abilities and your intuitive skills more. It's like you don't believe it. You might not believe it. Even me saying it might sound like bullshit, but it's true. Listen, I don't lie, okay? Listen, I will tell you the truth, but you're so defensive around it. You're like defensive around how deeply psychic you can actually be. It's like, some of you might be like, yeah, I'm kind of, like, I guess I am intuitive. It's like, you could literally be probably like a medium or something if you practiced it, if you applied. But again, it's like, you don't have to do it for a living or anything like that. But there's a need to embrace. You were probably a psychic in a past life. And I feel like a part of it, or maybe like a witch or something like that, or like some sort of like priestess in a past life, and some knowledge wants to come out. And yeah, there's some knowledge around that wants to come out and shine. You're not allowing yourself to be the priest or priestess that you were meant to be. And you can be a priest or a priestess with spiritual abilities and spiritual skills in a practical job as well. Because I feel like a lot of you want to be in a practical job, but it does not mean that you can't integrate your intuition and your spiritual abilities. And I feel like you've had past lives where your career was very spiritual. You could have even been like, again, as I said, a priest or a priestess, or like a monk or something like that. But there's a reason that you went through that lifetime. It's like you are meant to use the skills that you accumulated in that lifetime, in this lifetime, and you are meant to apply a lot of your spiritual knowledge and spiritual potency into a practical career, an investigative career. It's like a detective who works on cases but also uses their own spiritual and intuitive abilities to figure them out, meditates to figure out, you know, again, this is like obviously just a random example that popped into my head, but it's like something about it feels that way. Yeah, House 10, structure, discipline, life mission, accomplishments, and career. Your career is actually meant to be quite straightforward in this lifetime. If you haven't figured it out yet, you're totally fine. You're gonna figure it out. But I feel like the way that you figure out your career, and it does feel quite linear, it's just that you're meant to end a certain job when it's time to just let it die and let it go. But the way that you figure out what you're meant to do is through your intuition, through your and I feel like intuition that is a little bit more dense. Because I always find there's light into it. This is how it feels to me, right? Sometimes it feels like certain people have light intuition. And light intuition is very kind of like dispersed. And it's very kind of like, oh, I can pick up on little things. And it's like, oop. And I can pick them out of air. And that's, I feel like I kind of navigate like that when I'm reading intuitively. Like, oh, and this message, and this message, oh, and this. And I put them all together. I weave them and I knit them together. And here they are. And I have a sweater for you. Okay? But some people, the way that their intuition works, it's like a snake, and it's slow, and it navigates and feels things around, and it may not pick up on messages and like words and phrases and thoughts, but it'll pick up on emotion and underlying concepts, and it's much more broad and much more dense. And I always find, because I love the relationship between Jupiter and Saturn, and Jupiter being the expansion and growth, and Saturn being the restriction and zoning in on things. And that's what I think. Some people have Saturnian intuition, where it's like dense, and some people have Jupiterian intuition, where it's like, whew, right? Anyway, I'm sober. I am. But I sometimes I feel like I'm trying to like describe something, and it sounds like some people are probably like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I think you get it. I think you understand what I'm trying to put down here. You just need to follow that dense energy that is moving you somewhere. It's like a tug. It's almost like I can feel it. It's like something is like a rope in you, and it's pulling you. And you just need to allow that pull to take you for your career. Fascinating reading, group number 3. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed it too. Please let me know if you have any feedback for me. I'd love to hear it if you feel like sharing it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next video. But we're moving on. So let's move on to group number 4. Group number 4. Let's get into your reading. So we're going to look at your options. Every group was so different, so I'm very excited for your group. Let's get into it. Let's see what comes up. I'm starting with the primary option. And the way that I'm looking at it is primary option, secondary option, tertiary option, but also the overall energy of like what you can do in your career. Let's get into it. So let's get started with the primary option. The Devil in reverse and Justice. Ooh. You will need to get rid of certain addictions in your life in order to pursue your career, your true career. And addictions don't mean just substance, as you know, you probably hear me say it multiple times all the time. It's not just about releasing addictions that are like, you know, oh, smoking or drinking or drugs. Addiction to certain thoughts, addiction to certain ways of being, addiction to certain ways of existing. You will have to work through those in order to find your true career path. There are certain things that you are karmically almost addicted to. It could be that you've spent lifetimes obsessing over certain types of thoughts, having certain paranoias, having certain addictions that in this lifetime, I feel like you're almost destined to break out of those cycles and move towards a karmic destiny, and your career is going to be a part of it. Damn. You're meant to really liberate yourself in this lifetime. Your career is directly related to your own liberation of yourself from your own addictions, from your own hatred of yourself. It's very intense to say hatred of yourself. I'm really sorry if that doesn't resonate, but I feel like for some of you, maybe there is some truth to that. Liberate yourself from your own anger towards yourself. Liberate yourself from your own shame towards yourself. And that is where you find your career. That is where you find your true career path. Some of you could have had very difficult starts in this lifetime. And it was all moving you towards liberation. Liberation of your own mind. Liberation of what you think is right and what you think is wrong. There are things that you objectively believe to be okay, but yet you shame yourself for them. It's like one thing you would forgive a stranger for, or a peer for, or a family member for, you shame yourself for. And that is something that you are going to have to break in order to find your perfect career. Damn. These groups are flexing on me with the deep shit, and I am like... I feel like I didn't want to be so intense today, Grandpa. I wanted to talk about career. I didn't want to talk about these like intense concepts, but damn, Grandpa. I wonder if some of you, because I keep thinking Grandpa, I wonder if some of you have like a grandfather on the other side, or a great grandfather, or like a masculine ancestor. But I feel like Grandpa, because Grandpa. There's like a grandfather who could be, helping you along with this. It's like it feels like a grandfatherly energy that not only helps you with shadow work and breaking away from addictions, but also is helping you with your quest on your career. So it's like he has like two jobs for you almost. Like it's like he's like your mentor in those energies. It could have even been an ancestor that had major addiction problems. Major, and it's like the soul understands. It's like this person is a spirit guide to you. This grandfatherly energy is a spirit guide to you. It feels like this is very specific, but as I said in another reading or in other groups, I find when I get very specific in these readings, people actually resonate with it because it's such a small cohort of people. So I'm just gonna talk. It feels like there's a grandfatherly energy helping you with your addiction to anything. Doesn't have to be substance. Because this grandfatherly energy understands addiction. And it's like soul, higher self, whatever, this grandfather's higher self, soul energy understands the struggle of being addicted to certain things and how to navigate that. It feels like a very important spirit guide. Damn. We've got Saturn. Discipline. It's self-discipline, and often we see discipline as, oh, I need to be disciplined with my budget. I need to be disciplined with my, waking up in the morning and going to work on time, and that's discipline. But the way that this ancestor, and I feel like this ancestor is very present here. For someone here, there's like a grandfather who's like, I'm gonna take over the reading. But discipline is not... There's no point in beginning your discipline with waking up every morning if you're still addicted to some sort of way of thinking that is destroying you. There's no point in saying, I'm going to be disciplined with my workout if you still hate on your body and you're not disciplined in talking to your body in a positive way. There's no point in being disciplined with your budget if you have a lack mentality and you're looking at money from a perspective of I'll never get money, I'll never get enough to have the things that I want to have. And so I feel like there's a lot of shadow work that this grandfather shows up for. This grandfather is like there's a very persistent energy to this spirit guide. There's a very stern energy to the spirit guide, but it's also like, I'm only stern because I want to get you to the point where you're meant to get in this lifetime. And I feel like if you are ever in an energy when you're like, I need to do shadow work around my addictions or thoughts or tendencies or cycles that I'm addicted to, call in on this ancestor, because some of you definitely know who this is. You are meant to feel restricted in the beginning of your lifetime. And I know that this is going to sound really annoying, and maybe you are going to want to say, Vlada, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear it. Like, don't even talk to me about how I chose this life. Like, what? Like, leave me alone. I'm sorry. I have to say it. I have to say it. You needed a lot of these restrictions, because these restrictions are meant to show you how much you can overcome, just how much you can withstand as a human, as a soul, as a creature, as a entity. Karmically, again, if you are not vibing with this reading, that's okay. I get you. I understand you. But like, you are meant to have some sort of propelling energy in this lifetime where you overcome so much. Where you overcome so much that and it's not like you're gonna have to continue overcoming it. I feel like the most difficult part of your lifetime feels like it feels the hardest part of you've done the hard bit. That's what it feels like. You know, when you're doing something, and if you had an encouraging, like when you were a child and you were trying to do something, but you were like, oh, I don't want to do it. And there was an adult that was like, it's okay. The hardest part is over. You just need to, you'll be finished. So like, you'll be done with the hard part soon. Like, you've definitely done the hardest part. You don't need to worry about it anymore. That's the way that this grandfatherly energy feels to me with you. It's like, you've done the hardest parts of shadow work, it feels like. You've done the hardest parts of like tackling shame, tackling addiction, tackling your own inner demons, as dramatic as that sounds. You've done the hardest part. You've done it. It's done. You just need to kind of persist with it now and see yourself through to the finish line. And you're very, very close. That's what it feels like. And so this option in your career is showing up as like, continue doing shadow work. Continue addressing your own shame, your own addictions, your own obsessions. Continue addressing toxic cycles in your life. Continue with the discipline that you are creating for yourself. And you might think that you have no discipline, or you might think that your discipline is not that great. But you have amazing discipline. It's just not like, oh, I wake up at 7 a.m. and go for a run and like have a smoothie and fuck it. It doesn't matter. Fuck that discipline. It's not the discipline you need right now. The discipline you need right now is every time you go to call yourself a stupid bitch, you go, no, I'm not a stupid bitch, and how dare I talk to myself right like that? Oh, I understand. I have a cycle of this, and like, it's like, that's the most important discipline right now. You don't need to be in the disciplined world that maybe society projects onto us. You need to know that you have internal discipline around the things that need discipline right now. And some of you maybe have overcome addictions, and I feel like someone here maybe has had an overcoming of a significant addiction, even if it was just like, oh, you quit smoking or something like that. That was vast application of discipline to yourself. Discipline is your friend, group 4. In your career, in general, in life. But it's like, don't look at it from a perspective of like, I need to have discipline with my business and my budget. Before you have discipline with anything in your career, make sure you have discipline with yourself. And I can tell that's what you do. That's what you do. Okay, let's look at your secondary option for group number 4 with their career. I'm going to take it because it flashed at me. 7 of Cups. I'm going to take it because it was like, it flipped, and it was very tempting. It was like, hey girl, I know you want to take me. 7 of Cups. Assess your options. I feel like your guides are also kind of coming through and saying, allow yourself to see that you have more options than you allow yourself to believe. Some of you also, I keep getting the idea of like looking at life and looking at career from a perspective, what would be the best case scenario? What would be the best case scenario for me in my career? And like maybe journal on it. Right now, where I'm standing, what do I believe to be the best case scenario in my career? Let's journal about it. Let's look at that. Let's look at the possibilities of what could happen. Oh my God, I might do it myself tonight. This sounds so juicy and interesting. What would be the best case scenario? If I had the best case scenario, believable to me career, let's say in 10 years' time, what do I see as believable and best case scenario? Let me journal about that. Juicy. I also feel like you're a funny group of people. Your humor actually helps you a lot. I feel like no matter how tough things get, your humor will always get. You have this like nihilistic, but at the same time very optimistic blend of humor. It's like you're able to have optimism in the most hopeful of situations, but you never forget to inject a dose of nihilism into, or nihilistic humor into a situation that is maybe a little bit too optimistic, or maybe there's a little bit of toxic positivity going on somewhere. You are interesting, group 4. I feel like some of you could be like, you could genuinely be like comedy writers or comedians, or because Saturn, people underappreciate Saturn as a comedy placement, I think. For me personally, that's how I feel. Because Saturn is sarcasm. Saturn is the clever kind of like, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, let's not get too idealistic, let me bring you back to earth kind of humor. And so there is something about, like, you could be an amazing comedian, comedy writer. There's something around your energy that portrays that to me. And I'm getting, oh my God, I'm getting like a hug on my head. I don't know if any of you, I know some tarot readers, fellow tarot readers follow me, but sometimes when I get a confirmation, I get like a little hug on my head, on the top of my head, and I'm getting that right now. Some of you need to be like comedy writers, or like write your own comedy material, like for stand-up or something like that. Like you genuinely could be a comedian. Like, I'm not even blowing smoke up your ass. I wouldn't dare to, because you, group 4, would call me out. Like, bitch, be honest. I am honest. We've got Capricorn. Capricorns are so funny, and Capricorn placements are so funny. So many people call Capricorn placements boring, and I just, like, I don't agree with that at all. Do not agree. I do not agree. Capricorn placements are my favorite. I have a lot of people in my life that I just absolutely adore who have severe case of Capricorn placements. Anyway, so we've got ambition, realism, and methodical steps with Capricorn. It's important to you that your career is realistic. I can see that, group 4. And allow yourself the pleasure. Allow yourself the indulgence of not over idolizing your career. It's important to you. In this lifetime, you don't want to shoot for the stars, and not you want to be successful, but you're not the kind of person who's going to go like, come out and go, I'm going to be a movie star. I'm going to be a movie star and I'm going to be on the red carpets. You're not like that. You're like, if I want to be a movie star, I need to first go into like the fucking theater school or whatever. And I need to do this. I need to do this, this, and this, and this. And I need to do step A, B, and C. Give yourself permission to not shoot for the stars sometimes. But also don't limit yourself and don't go, oh, I'll never achieve this. There's a need to realize how important realism and cynicism even, and a healthy dose of skepticism. There's a need to accept that you will always crave cynicism, skepticism, and realism in life. And so what? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. Like, you're that kind of person and you need it. And so with your career, it's the same. You will always need a dose of realism, but it shouldn't be to such an extent where it completely crushes you. Because too much realism, a lot of the time people who think they're realistic and they get hell-bent on being realistic, they don't even see themselves how they slip into pessimism. And so there's a need to know that your realism needs to stay neutral. I'm just being realistic. But it's like, are you really, or are you actually dragging your realism on the pessimistic side? You need to be careful with that. But also honor your need for being realistic. I need realistic goals. Set those. What I keep getting that journaling prompt. What do I see as realistic, and what's the best case scenario for me and my career in 5 to 10 years? You can do one for 5 years and you can do one for 10 years. I would recommend doing one for 5 years for you, because again, 5 years, it's like, it's more plausible to think. Some of you, oh my god, you have such dark sense of humor or something, because some of you are like, I don't even know if I'll be alive in 5 years. It's like that kind of thing that's coming through. You are hilarious. And thank you for making me laugh in my head with my own thoughts. Thanks for that. Okay, group 3. Or group 4. Sorry, option 3. Group 4. Oh my god. Okay, group 4. Yeah, some of you don't even want... It's so funny. I'm getting this kind of feeling of you're the kind of person that goes between wanting to be recognized and wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard, and then immediately going, I don't fucking want any of that. I actually don't want to be seen. I actually don't want to be heard. It makes me think of like a famous person who craves being famous but also hates being famous at the same time. You have that kind of energy to me. And so you need to find ways in which you can be seen and heard in practical and realistic ways without exposing yourself too much. And you're not ready to expose yourself too much yet. And that is okay. Like, I sometimes hate that myself when, people talk about, like, just, you need to just be vulnerable and open up and just be, there and allow people to pour into you. And it's like, well, that hasn't been my experience of life. And I am not kind of there. I'm not really on that level. Sorry about it, but I'm not. And, like, that's where the toxic positivity and shadow work comes in. It's like, we need to realize that sometimes we just need to meet ourselves where we're at. And sometimes telling ourselves that we should be shooting for the stars and thinking that life is going to be like 110% better than it is today, sometimes will feel patronizing to ourselves. And it'll feel like we are being patronizing to our very own being. And so for you, the key to your career feels like you must not patronize yourself ever in your career, group 4. You must not allow anyone to patronize you in your career, and you may never, or you're not allowed to patronize yourself in your career. And accepting that is really important. Maybe journaling about ways in which I patronize myself in my career. In what ways do I limit myself, patronize myself, and see myself as incapable? Because you are capable. You've got Saturn, you've got Capricorn here. House 11. Friends, like-minded groups, and humanitarian beliefs. Also the house of the internet, or being like viral, or being popular, or being seen. House 10, 10th house and 11th house are houses where you are very exposed and you're very seen. You've got a reputation. You've got people watching you, And at the very core of things is that you want your voice to be heard. You want to be seen on some sort of level. You want to express something. But you also don't want to be the center of attention all the time. And I think that's really what I'm seeing here for you, group 4. You're like, I want to be seen, but I don't want to be like constantly the center of attention. But that's okay. That's good, if anything. What are you worried about? Nothing. Sorry, I'm in a silly, goofy mood today, I've noticed that about myself with this reading. I was just like, oh. Look, your career is a mystery in many ways, but it's also not at all, because I feel like you, group 4, know exactly the type of career that you want. I think you know exactly what your objectives are within your career, but it's the problem is around, is it realistic? It is realistic. To what degree is it realistic to, though? And you get to decide that. But the beautiful thing about it is as well, let's say you say to yourself, best case scenario, but what is realistic? best case scenario that I feel personally is realistic. Let me say in 5 years' time, I am a comedian and I am doing quite well and I'm writing for a comedy show or something like that. It's not the biggest show on earth, but it's well received in certain groups. Maybe it's like a cult classic amongst small groups of people, but it's not necessarily like a cult hit amongst the whole of the population or whatever. Right. Let's say that's my best case scenario that I feel is comfortable and realistic. Let's say in 2 or 3 years, you already achieved that, and that was your 5-year plan, and all of a sudden you go, I actually got this done in 2 to 3 years, whereas my original plan was 5 years. Let me do the plan again, and let me add another 5 years, and let me create, and that way you're actually advancing your best case scenario. And it's not unrealistic anymore, it's very realistic. You need shit to be realistic. You're like, I need realism. Damn, some of you want to be famous, just admit you want to be famous. It's not even a big deal. Oh my god. What's wrong with wanting to be famous and wanting to be seen? You just don't want to be the center of attention all the time. You're like, I want to be famous, but then I want a retreat. Do that. You set your boundaries. I'm like, it's so easy, just do that, you know? I'm not being patronizing. I'm not patronizing you, Group 4. I would never do that to you. Realism is subjective. What's realistic to you may not be realistic to another person, and what you see as completely unrealistic, another person could look at you and say they would do that in a split second. And I feel like that's something that your guides want you to and especially this grandfatherly guide, maybe because it's this grandfatherly guide is looking at you and going, they think this shit is unrealistic. They could do it in a heartbeat. That's what it feels like. Your guides really love you. You could do it in a heartbeat, but do it at your own comfortable pace in terms of realism. You decide what's realistic. But you don't know. Another person could be looking at you from the side and looking at you and going, shit, they could do a lot with their life. They're going to be huge. Huge. And you're like, oh, I would never be too big, or, you know, you're like minimizing yourself, but you don't see yourself from all angles. You only see yourself from your own angle. But push that envelope, push that boundary. Allow yourself to see realism from a more positive point of view. What's the best case scenario that is realistic? I feel like that is your like key to advancing. Okay, I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna shut up. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I really enjoyed doing it. I'm in a great mood doing this reading. It was an amazing experience. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for supporting me as always. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.